Hey everyone, today we're going to be comparing the Sympl Commuter Pack and the Aer City Pack Pro 2. Both of these have been fantastic to use. They have great build qualities, a sleek modern style, great organization, and so plenty of similarities, but there's also going to be some differences that you want to keep in mind to find the one that's going to be best for you, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Before doing so, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Danny, and on this channel we love reviewing popular travel and everyday carry gear. If you like these types of videos and you'd be interested in seeing more, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel out a lot. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. Starting off with the overall aesthetic, both of these have a pretty modern and techy style, which I'm a big fan of. I think either one is going to work great for going into the office, for traveling, or for your day-to-day. Which one is going to be best for you will really just come down more to aesthetic preferences. And then as far as the materials, both of these are very solidly built. With the City Pack Pro 2, you have a couple of different fabric options. Here I have the 1680D ballistic nylon, but it's also available in X-Pack and Ultra. And then for the Commuter Pack, you also have a couple of different options. There is this shinier nylon that's gonna offer, plenty of durability. It's been the fabric that Sympl has been using on their bags for a while, and now they have a more matte version of a nylon that also feels very durable. I featured that in the video that I did for the Commuter Pack, and I think that they both feel very rugged, very weather resistant. I've had many years of usage with Aer's bags and haven't run into any issues. Sympl is a newer company, but again, with the versions of their bags that I've used across the past couple of years, I've also not run into any issues. So as far as durability, it feels like they're pretty close. With the Commuter Pack, if you get this sort of shinier nylon, it does always feel like it's gonna have some additional weather resistance. And then you also have the weather sealed zippers on this version of the Sympl Commuter. With the City Pack Pro 2, kind of comes down to the fabric that you get. With the Cordura version, you have the reverse coil YKK zippers, and you do have an aqua guard on the laptop compartment, but it just feels like maybe there's a slight edge on the weather resistance for Sympl. But with Aer, in addition to the multiple fabrics, you can also get a few different colors. So if you're not looking for a black colorway, that'll definitely be something to keep in mind. And then continuing along the exterior, both are going to offer some nice handles so that you can maneuver the bag. So they have top handles. With Aer, you have the dual side handles, which I really like. And then with Sympl, you do have a handle on the side, a couple of attachment points. And as far as attachment points with the Aer bag, you have a D-ring on the side. And so, I like having the dual handle so that you can swing the bag around from either direction. And, I think that just gives you some extra flexibility. And then both are gonna offer external water bottle pockets. Aer, again, offering the dual water bottle pockets, one on each side. With Sympl, you have one traditional external water bottle pocket, and then you have another side pocket that can work as a secondary water bottle holder or as a pocket to store other items. So a little bit of a different approach there. I think that they both have their pros and cons. They're gonna offer a nice amount of capacity. So both are gonna handle my 26-ounce Yeti Rambler in the external compartment. You can see here with Aer, it slides in there, even with the 26-liter size. It's a little tight, but it works. And then with Sympl, you have this style of water bottle pocket that allows the compartment to extend outwardly. It's got the zipper here, and then it's gonna offer maybe just a little bit more space. So if you wanna carry a larger water bottle, that is an advantage for Sympl there. But you only have one of these, and then that other compartment I'll showcase more closely when we get into the organizational layouts. But happy that both at least offer some sort of external water bottle access. And then the last thing I'll mention while we're talking about the exterior is how well they stand up on their own. So far, they've both been pretty consistent. They hold their structure fairly well, and they also have a pretty wide, flat bottom. And so when I've placed them down next to me, I've been able to access the compartments when I've needed to. Moving into the capacity, both of these are listed at about 24 liters, which to me is kind of a sweet spot for an all-purpose bag. It's something that I could use for my day-to-day, and it doesn't feel overwhelmingly large or bulky, but it can still hold a good amount for larger days, or if I want to use it for travel. They can also work pretty well as a personal item on a variety of domestic and international airlines. And in general, they feel pretty close as far as the silhouette and what it's like to wear them. Volume calculations are always tricky due to how the space is distributed across different compartments and the layouts of the bag. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that when we go through the loadouts, but generally they feel pretty close. With the Commuter Pack from Sympl, you do have a 20-liter version, which doesn't feel that different. It's not quite as deep, but still, really nice size. And then with the City Pack Pro 2, you have the City Pack, which is a smaller version, and the layout on that is gonna be a little bit different, but big fan in general of these size, and I think they both work very well at that 24-liter capacity. Continuing with the harness system, so far both bags have been comfortable to wear, but I think this is an area where Aer has a pretty big advantage. Aer's harnesses in general have been some of my favorite for the past couple of years. I really love the comfort on their straps, the padding they use, the breathability, everything just feels super nice even when you're wearing it for a longer period of time. You have a good sternum strap here, and then the back panel also feels fantastic. You have that same type of cushioning, and it's well distributed. You have a pretty deep air channel here to give you ventilation in addition to the breathable mesh. With the Sympl Commuter pack, you have similar style straps. These feel quite nice. You have a nice amount of cushioning. You still have that breathability. These straps are also wider at the top, so if you're someone who worries about maybe straps being a little tighter to your neck, that'll be something to think about. You have a good sternum strap here as well. But where I really prefer Aer's harnesses on the back panel in particular, Sympl has this more kind of rigid style padding that feels supportive, and it does offer that same level of elevation, so you get some airflow there, but the material here has never felt quite as comfortable, at least for my preferences, as what Aer has. And so, you know, I think it gets the job done, and I'm sure there's some benefits over the Aer mesh, but for my, preferences, I still prefer kind of that extra cushioned feeling that you get with the City Pack Pro 2. I do really like that both of these offer a luggage pass-through and that they have the vertical orientation to allow the bag to stand up so that you can easily access the laptop compartment when the bags are resting on your suitcase. Jumping into the organizational options, both of these have a nice variety of pockets. Starting off with the Commuter pack, you have a great quick access pocket on the front with a vertically oriented zipper, well protected, and it also offers a good amount of volume. So it's able to handle things like pouches, larger charging blocks. At the moment, I just tossed in a couple of smaller accessories, a headlamp, and then you have a few slip pockets on the inside. I have a travel adapter in one of them, and then my scissors. And so great to see a little bit of internal organization since this is a taller pocket, but I've also used this to store tech pouches, toiletry bags, and so I really like the flexibility that this provides. And then with the City Pack, you have a quick access pocket on the front. This one is more of a top loading pocket. It has a decent amount of space. It doesn't feel quite as voluminous as the one on the Commuter pack, and so at the moment I'm using it to store my alpaca admin pouch, and then I also have a portable battery in here, and in this compartment you have a little lanyard for your keys, so you can clip it on very easily. So it's still a very useful pocket. It just feels tighter than what's on the Commuter pack, and so I'll go ahead and toss the same pouches in. You can see that just slides in super easily. You can toss the battery in, and it just feels like there's more space here left over. But generally both of these are very useful. And then at the top, both have a quick access pocket. With the Commuter pack, you don't get this pocket on the 20-liter size. You only get it on the 24-liter, and the pocket goes into the main area. So if you fill this out all the way, it is going to take up some space. With the City Pack Pro 2, you have a compartment that's a little smaller, but it's still able to handle the items that I would normally want to use it for. And I like that because of the design here, it doesn't poke into the main area as much. So I just use it for my charging cable, my headphones, and then I'll go ahead and put those same things into the Commuter pack. And of course, they fit without any issue. And I still have maybe a little bit of extra leftover space here, but in the main compartment, you will start to kind of see that poke down. So different styles, but at least they both have a top quick access area. And then they both have an additional kind of larger quick access area that also has built-in organization. Aer takes a simpler approach with theirs. They still have, nice amount of volume. It's pretty open, so it can handle things like sunglasses. I have a USB-C hub and charging block for my laptop and other devices. And so both of those just fit in here comfortably. I've also used this to hold things like my smaller drone, and you can toss a pouch in here. So I really like the flexibility that this provides. You still have some slip pockets on the back, USB-C cable there. I was also able to slide my Apple Magic Mouse into that slip pocket, and you have a zipper pocket on the back. That'll be great for smaller accessories. I just have a notebook in here at the moment. And then with the Commuter pack, you have essentially a built-in tech pouch with an accordion style layout. So you have extra organizational options. And on the front, you have a few elastic slip pockets. These are some of my favorite types of pockets to use because they feel the most kind of flexible. I'm just storing my portable hard drive in one of them at the moment. And then you have a lanyard here with a magnetic clip so that you can attach your keys and easily get to them. I always think this is a cool system, and it's in this top pocket versus the front quick access, so a little different than the City Pack Pro 2. And then you have kind of the two sections here with this zippered pocket in the middle. So you have a lot of different options for how to organize your stuff. In the back, I have a few slip pockets where I have a little multi-tool, my phone mount, USB-C cable for the hard drive. And then you also have kind of a padded sleeve here that's going to be a good spot for a tablet. An e-reader slides in there. It also has this magnetic closure. And so lots of different options there. And which one is going to be best for you will just depend on your approach to organization. I personally prefer the simpler, more open layout in general. But I could see how people who like to have a spot for everything and have a lot of smaller kind of tech gear that they're trying to easily reach might prefer the built-in organization of the commuter pack. On the back, both have a dedicated laptop compartment, and they both do a really great job with their implementation. With the City Pack Pro 2, here you have a padded sleeve that has a soft lining on the back. I like how protective this sleeve feels. It's also pulled up off the bottom of the ground. You'll be able to store a 15 or 16 inch laptop here. Currently I have my 14-inch MacBook Pro. You can see that there's some leftover space. Very easy to get my device in and out when I'm just needing to get to my device while traveling throughout the day, while it's on my rolling suitcase. And then in this compartment, you also have an additional slip pocket that goes down pretty far. So you have space for maybe a notebook, an additional device, or some documentation. Moving over to the commuter pack, one of the differences you'll see here is that you have this little loop that you can put the zipper pull through to give a little bit of theft deterrence. So it's just going to provide that extra bit of friction for somebody getting into your laptop compartment. You can open it up, and then you have a pretty similar style here as far as offering a soft lining on the back. What's nice here is that you do have the soft lining on the front as well. This compartment is pulled up off the bottom of the ground, so you can drop your laptop in there without any issues. And it feels very protective. So in general, I think that they both do a great job as far as laptop protection. I really like how easy it is to get the devices in and out. They offer good space. They're both suspended. So it's a little bit of a toss-up here. I suppose I might give a slight edge to Sympl just for the additional sort of soft lining on the front. And I really like that they have this tech area incorporated into the laptop compartment. So you have this magnetic flap that allows you to access this additional space with some slip pockets where I'm currently storing a laptop charger and the cable. But you could use this to store a mouse, portable hard drive. So I think that this layout just makes a lot of sense. I've used similar layouts in other bags and I've always really enjoyed it. And then moving into the main compartments, both of these have a clamshell style opening. I currently have the Sympl Commuter loaded out with more of a minimal travel setup, and then the City Pack Pro 2 with a daily setup. So as I do with many of these videos, I will go through each setup and then swap them between the two so you have a good idea of the size differences. And so in the commuter pack, I have my medium compressible packing cube from Peak Design and an Aer dop kit. So both of these fit in there without any issues. I still probably would have had a little bit of leftover space, but I didn't want to overpack the bag. And on the inside here, you can see that you have a slip pocket on the back. That's going to be a good spot to separate out some, additional accessories, a notebook, a tablet. And here you can see the top quick access pocket poking in, like I mentioned earlier. So if you fill this out, it does kind of just take up a little bit of space. It can get in the way. And then on the back, you have additional slip pockets here for other tank and everyday carry accessories. So good spot for portable batteries, hard drives. You have a slimmer one that might be a good spot for a multi-tool. And then you have a hidden AirTag pocket near the top. So, really nice layout there. And one thing I forgot to call out earlier with the commuter pack is this additional compartment on the side. So this is their alternative to a secondary water bottle pocket, which, Aer has. They have this zippered pocket, which, it has a gusset that allows it to poke into the main area. And so it does have a decent amount of capacity. There's that 26-ounce Yeti Rambler. It fits and it extends into this compartment. So if you have this really packed out, you wouldn't be able to fit something this bulky in here. But I do kind of like the fact that it offers you the option to store something like a tech pouch or charging cables or, an umbrella, other things that you might be reaching for throughout the day. It's just a little bit more versatile than a standard water bottle pocket. So depending on how you use these things, one might be more appealing than the other. And then taking a look at the lid for the commuter pack, you have two zippered mesh pockets. I like that this is a pretty elastic mesh here. I normally don't use the one on the bottom, but if you wanted to use it for something, you do have a nice amount of flexibility and space, and then you have a smaller one here near the top with that same material. I just have a nail clipper set in there at the moment, but you could store other tech accessories, things that you want to reach a little bit more easily. And one thing to note is that this section is pretty rigid, so it does feel slightly tight with this compartment, but you know, that's just part of what comes with the territory of having so many options included throughout the bag. And so still a layout that feels familiar, very useful. And then coming back around to the City Pack and taking a look at more of the daily loadout, go ahead and open it up, the clamshell layout, and then, you know, pretty standard loadout here as far as my headphones, a couple of pouches, Civic Access pouch, 1/2 liter, 1 liter, I have an Aer Tech pouch, and then I have the Civic Access pouch, 2 liters. And all of those things fit in there without any issue. There was still some leftover space there. And on the inside, you have a pretty similar slip pocket here down at the bottom. So for that separation, you don't have the pockets at the top like the Commuter Pack has, but you know, I don't think those are a deal breaker necessarily. And then I will go ahead and put in that same packing cube that I had in the Commuter Pack, just so you can get a sense of the size difference. And it's still gonna fit, but it did feel like there was maybe a little bit more space left over with the Commuter Pack when I had the packing cube in there. I'll go ahead and place the loadout that I had in here with the tech pouches and the Aer Tech kit, Evergoods, and then the 1 liter here down at the bottom. And so, you know, it just feels like there's a little bit more space in the main compartment for the Commuter Pack. The City Pack Pro 2, still very versatile, is able to hold a good amount, but as far as just pure space, I would say that I would maybe give a little bit of an edge to the Sympl Commuter in that regard. But you know, as you can see, both can handle a minimal travel loadout. They can both handle a daily loadout. With Aer, you also have that same sort of layout with the zippered pockets on the bottom. This one doesn't have mesh, so it, you know, you can't see on the inside, which might be nice for anything more sensitive. And then you have one at the top, pretty similar size. At the moment, I'm just using this to store a deck of playing cards. But, you know, very, very close as far as the features, the layout, and, you know, their capabilities. So taking a look at the pricing, at the time of filming, the Aer City Pack Pro 2 starts at $209. For the ballistic nylon version, the price is going to go up a bit if you want to get the X-Pack or Ultra versions. And then the 24-liter size of the Sympl Commuter Pack comes in at around $260. And so there is a pretty significant price difference between the two if you go with the ballistic nylon City Pack Pro 2 from Aer, which is, you know, a pretty great value at just over $200 for the features and the build quality that this offers. It's probably one of the best kind of bags that you can get in this price range. And the Sympl Commuter Pack at $260 is still, you know, comparable to many of the other bags in this category. And it does offer a couple of additional bells and whistles, I would say. So you do get a lot of value for the pricing, but you know, just on price alone, again, if you go with the entry-level City Pack, then it's gonna have a bit of an advantage there. And so to summarize some of the key takeaways from the video, it's really close between these two. I think they've both done an incredible job of offering, you know, very useful layouts, solid materials. I think that the Aer City Pack Pro 2 has an edge on the harness system. You know, for my preferences, I think that it's a more comfortable bag. I really like the back panel. And I also like that the layout is a little more simplified. There's some of those extra things on the Sympl Commuter that I just don't use quite as much. With that being said, I do think that the Sympl Commuter has a little bit of an edge in the laptop compartment as far as, you know, the organization and the additional kind of lining that it offers there. And it's also nice to have the flexibility as far as the pocketing, and it's, instead of having that extra external water bottle pocket, having the zipper pocket is a pretty cool feature. And I also think that the weather resistance feels a little bit better on the Sympl Commuter if you go with the carbonate nylon that I had in this video. It just feels like water bounces off the seams, the weather resistant zippers, everything just feels like your stuff is gonna be super protected from the elements. You know, if you don't mind the back panel as much, I think that's gonna be one of the biggest differentiators besides the pricing, in addition to some of those extra organizational options that the Sympl Commuter Pack provides. But I think that regardless of which one you go with, you're gonna get something that's gonna be super solid and just work well in pretty much any situation. And so that's it. Those are some of the similarities and differences between the Sympl Commuter Pack and the Aer City Pack Pro 2. Hopefully this video was helpful, and if you have any questions on anything that I covered in the video or suggestions for similar bags that I should check out, as always, please let me know in the comments. And I'll make sure to include links in the description below to the dedicated reviews that I've done for each of these bags, as well as to some of the other roundups and comparisons that I've done for similar options. And if you have suggestions for other comparisons or roundup videos that you would like to see, please let me know about those as well. And I want to thank you for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And we'll see you in the next one.